Let's start. My name is Karol, and I'm CEO and co-founder of AppUnite. I partner building many software products on each stage of their life cycle. I worked on digital innovations with startups, entrepreneurs, and corporates for the last 10 years. I would like to welcome you to my presentation. Is MVP worth the effort and money? Okay, so let's start with an iteration era we live in. With an AI and automatization, a lot of jobs are replaced with robots. Shipping a product was never faster and easier than ever before. Thanks to that, there are so many products already on the market, and economic realities are drastically shifted. That's why we need curiosity to be implemented from the base ground into companies and products. This doesn't just apply to startups. It's equally important for established companies. When you have been operating successfully for a number of years, you can be lured into a false sense of security, which leaves you at the risk which leaves you at the risk of disruption, at risk from plugging money into something that nobody wants to use. Our goal is to build disruptive products that will address what user needs, while we can benefit and ask what they want. And here it comes, an MVP as a tool for understanding what user needs. Okay, so what's an MVP then? Frank Robinson came to the term minimum viable product in 2001. The idea from the superficial point of view is built on this simple assumption. Get a version in front of the customer as early as possible. Not by maximizing the income, but learning. Probably you have heard minimum viable product, and probably you got it from the first side. But just because it's something is easy to grasp, it doesn't mean it's easy to do. And here I'm talking about dev teams, product owners, lead developers, business people, tend to know what the ultimate product would look like. So we start to cut the ultimate product into smaller chunks. And what we end up is for sure a minimal. But is it viable? That's the part where it gets tricky. The guy named Henrik Kniberg captured a sketch that perfectly covers this issue. Here we have a minimum, but until the very last stage, it's definitely not viable. And across the border, we have a minimum and viable product on the every single stage. Think what customer needs, not what he wants. In this sketch, user wants to get from point A to B, and that's the problem we are solving. You will reach happy customer and market fit much faster using this approach with no big bang that can take a lot of money to invest and not having the happiest customer ever. Okay, but where to start? So you need to start finding a minimum viable market. I know that it might sound funny, but you need to look for innovators. Only 2.5% of population that care enough to be ready for that change. When you create an early feedback group, it's tempting to have as biggest group as possible. But the smallest group, the more focused, the better. You can use design thinking tools to describe your persona. Craft a quick elevator pitch to be able to reach them and convince them to start using it. You will be able to test hypotheses with minimal resources using this approach. You are selling the vision and delivering the minimum feature set to visionaries, not to everyone. When you will know what's your focus group, you will start thinking about riskiest assumptions test. So at each stage, you will think why and what you are testing. The key is to have rapid and small tests. What's the smallest experiment you can do to test your biggest assumption? That's the question you should ask yourself all the time. You should maximize the rate of learning by minimizing the time to try things. Express the opportunity as a customer problem and work backwards. Do the analysis and assumptions upfront, but don't trust those analyses too much. Remember that your assumption may be wrong. And the most important thing, iterate. Iterate on your assumptions, iterate on the risk that you identified, and assume that you can learn from those iterations. You can use different tools and techniques, which each one could be covered with separate presentation. You can use 5 whys, landing pages, interactive mockups, RAT, A/B tests, product box, explainer videos, design sprints, feedback loops, lean canvas, and more. You can see that you can test your assumption pretty fast before going directly into code. And those learning will help on later stages with MVP development. Okay, but how to make MVP successful? You need to shift your mindset. And instead of thinking about the ultimate product, think what will be viable for a user. Assume that you need to have a budget for a great number of iterations. Don't stop building after first iteration, because you will have only one shot to learn. Managers often want to see numbers and productivity, which is logical for them. They fear their assets is on the line if those elements don't show up. This creates a lot of hurt trigger. For example, age of urgency, style of management, and much less space to learn. But it's nearly impossible to practice iteration in such contexts. There is no time. Everything needed now and now and now. We don't get curious, think, or experiment, which is what we should do on this stage. Be sure you're delivering daily. Include as many feedback loops as possible from the day one. This will give you an opportunity to learn and to ensure that your assumptions are okay, and you could then adjust to things and develop next assumptions for later stages. Be engaged. This is This is something important. You need to be connected to your team, because without it, you can't validate your assumptions. So the question is MVP worth it? Yes, but you need to change your mindset and approach. It won't work when you will cut your ultimate product and deliver in stages. It will just take longer. It will burn more money, and it will make you unsatisfied. Thank you. And if you happen to have an idea for a product that will transform an industry you're working in, you're welcome to contact us. Do you have any questions? You can use a box to write a message to me, and I will be able to respond right now. Okay, guys, I hope that I inspired you with my presentation, and it will help you to understand how to work with MVP and how to ensure that you aren't burning your budget for things that won't let you make the better iterations and do that way. Okay, we have one question. I will read it. Do you have any example of a product that started with small MVP and turned into a big product? Yes, we are working with a lot of such examples. Sometimes clients are approaching us not having in mind the ultimate product, and we are trying to change this approach. And I can't disclose the name of the product, but one product we started to work around a year ago started to be a product that went from bigger platform and was separation to smaller one. And we started with a simple approach with delivering the same thing that we had in the product, but we started to learn and experiment from this delivery. At the beginning, we had a problem to convince our approach, but right now the product is growing like crazy. After 2 months of being in production, we have like 1000% of growth each day, each month, and also like we are experimenting on it till today. Okay, we have a second question. Is there any time period in which the first version of MVP should be released? From my perspective, the first version of MVP can be released the next day the idea was introduced. We can use a simple landing page. Like there are many tools to create a landing page on the internet right now. And you can just create an elevator speech on such landing page, and ask user to sign up for beta version. If you see such examples on the internet, it's like a perfect example for MVP. That person is testing on you. So if you sign up for beta, then like he validates the idea. So for me, I would think about us as smallest feedback loops as possible, and try to release each day and think about other development that we need to do to validate our ideas or assumptions. Any more questions that I could answer you? Like when we have a bigger idea about the product that is already validated by such examples, we can go with bigger development that allows us to test more ideas. And I believe that having 3 to 6 months to deliver such version of, like, to deliver product that will make a user happy is something that you should assume at, like, from the base grant. This is the budget that you should work with. Okay, we have another question. What's the average time taken by an MVP to be fully developed? What would be the average cost of it? So that's the mindset shift that I was talking about. So basically, you shouldn't assume the average time that MVP can be developed, and you shouldn't think about MVP as a tool only for startups, because like, you can use MVP to build one feature in your application. So you can deliver the smallest change, the smallest assumption that you think user needs at this moment, ask them for feedback, or create feedback loops directly in analytics, or directly in feedback form or NPS or anything. So having that in mind, like, you should, there is no time that you finish your iteration, because you're doing it all the time. And the smallest cost that you will invest to build an MVP is the better. When the MVP approach is not a good idea? It's a hard question. It's a hard question because I believe that we should implement into new companies curiosity that I mentioned before from the base ground. So every development should have, like, assumptions, and they should be validated by the market beforehand. And we are going with development just one step further to validate it on the more production system. That's why I believe it's more a mindset that you should think about MVP as a tool that you should do constantly, not only in your product but your approach. And is MVP a version of a product that already makes money, or this shouldn't be a focus? So I believe that when your product validates, and when your product meets your customer expectations, and he sees the value in the products that he uses, he will pay for that. So money is just a side effect of the value that you deliver to the customer, and you should think about like analytics to understand what's the value you're generating to the user. And It shouldn't be your first priority until you have small budget, but it shouldn't be your focus on this stage of development. There is an issue with presentation. Just a second. Okay, maybe I will switch to full screen then. Okay, so more questions. Okay, there is another question you should, you said about setting up a landing page for people to sign up for beta version. So such page should be promoted in social media, marketing campaign, even before MVP implementation. Yes, I believe that the faster you will validate your idea, the better. I think that you should first ask your friends, your family, which is always the most honest people that can share your feedback, and this way you are able to validate if the idea is a perfect spot for anybody else. Then start doing a promotion in social media. Start trying things. Like, there is no perfect way to ensure that the people are engaged, but there are many examples on the market that proved that you can sell your product even before it was created. The lastest example I can imagine is Hey, that was created by DHH and his company. I don't remember the name of the company. I think it's Signal 37. And they promoted the idea even before they finished MVP, and it gets so much of traction, even if the product is not finalized. The feedback the user gave, based on like they just provided what they want from the email that is like pretty old in case of implementation. But with this feedback, they could correct their assumptions and be better on delivering the product, the final product. Is MVP for startup only? No, I think that it's for every company. I think that most of the companies that are well established should start looking for should start learning this approach to ensure they don't go bankrupt sooner than later. You can see an example in banking systems, like well-established companies that have a lot of trust in people are abandoned by startups that provide much better experience, and they are testing their assumptions all the time. So it proves that the market is changing so fast that all the companies should look into lean canvas, into MVP, into delivering the customer value as soon as possible, to deploy daily, to ensure that they hear their customers. Okay, there is another question. Just a second. Let me see that. You talked about the target group and making it small at first. How small should it be? is there some sort of minimum, maximum value? I think we shouldn't think here about any count number. We should think about the consistency of the group that we are targeting. So, like if you have an experience building products, you know that when you deliver a first version to the market, you hear that from one user that he would make it green, the second one to make it bold, and third one to add a new feature that will be like that will give the biggest value to him. And like you need to cut down everything what's not included into the vision of the product you're delivering, so it's not diluted. And like that's why with the approach for the target group, you should also think about this. You should think about how to make it the most consistent group as possible, and then go go from them to address the needs and to validate your assumptions. The reality is complicated, so every single user will have different opinion. You need to ensure that your assumptions are validated in the way. How to make you understand that? So one answer can validate your assumptions, but like the user can respond to something different, and like you will have a false assumption that you are right while you are not. That's why you need to find a consistent group of the users. Okay, so thank you very much for this presentation. I hope that I inspired you to think about those issues, and I inspired you to change the mindset and approach that you might have building your next big idea. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.